Board of Education meeting to order. Nikki, would you call the roll, please?
Dan Barta.
Present.
Rich Jeffrey.
Present.
Terry Ellison. Present. Teresa Key. Present. Nikki Matley is present. Cheryl McGuire. Here. Dylan McGuire.
Here.
Bill Vosper.
Present.
And Tim Wolf is absent.
All right, we have a quorum and we are in session. I'd entertain a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
So moved. I'll second.
Got a motion by Terry and a second by Teresa. By voice vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, we have an agenda. And welcome, everybody, this evening. Now we're going to move on to our recognitions portion. And I'm going to turn it over to administration to get us rolling.
All right, just a reminder, this is only the second time we've had student and staff recognitions in this facility, that when we call up a particular building and/or announce our staff excellence recognitions, that we are going to ask you to stand in front of Ron Olson and face the audience, because number one, it's not about obstructing Ron as much as it is making sure the camera's in line with the individuals we're honoring. So when we call you up, if you could just, the presenters could stand and face the audience in front of Ron, that would be great. Secondly, the recipient for Abraham Lincoln Elementary for the October Student Excellence Award was unable to make it this evening, and we will be recognizing that student in December. So we're going to be likely recognizing two students from Abe Lincoln in December, like we're recognizing two students from the high school this evening. So we will start out with Northside Elementary and Mrs. Timmerman, who will be introducing Northside Elementary's October Student Excellence Award winner.
So this is fifth grader Braylon Cleary, and I'm going to share a little story about Braylon before I turn it over to you, Ms. Copeland. So I've been doing a lot of contact tracing, which means from the cafeteria. So I go through and I kind of real quickly see what's happening in there. And so I've been noticing, so 2 weeks ago this was, Braylon was on safety patrol. And safety patrol helps out about 70 to 80 students every single morning. It's a big job. So for a fifth grader to go in, they're working. But it's not every student takes it as seriously as Braylon does. And this is just a perfect example. She was all over the cafeteria helping so many students, leaning down, making sure they got what they need, cleaning up spills, cleaning tables. This girl was all over the place. She is a hard worker. She's so kind to others. And she's a great role model for our school. So, perfect example for Braylon.
Definitely. And I just want to let you know that public speaking is one of my biggest fears, but since we are here and it's for you, I'm more than excited to be here to celebrate you. All right, so I got some things here to say for you. Braylon is more than deserving of this award. You could tell instantly how deserving she was by the reaction of our students in the classroom last Wednesday. Before Mrs. Timmerman walked in to surprise Braylon with the news, her classmates were all whispering in unison that they hoped it was going to be Braylon. That doesn't happen very often when an entire class, and actually a grade full of students, feel confident enough to correctly guess the student of the month. As I listened to the class chatter after Braylon was announced, the kids were still talking about it, saying things like she's always following the 3 B's and she works incredibly hard to include everyone. From a teacher's perspective, if your classmates are noticing that, they truly mean it. Now, I've known Braylon for a very long time, and I have to say that it isn't just this year where I've seen these type of positive actions. From the moment you stepped into kindergarten at Northside, you put 110% effort into everything that you do. You volunteer when somebody needs something done, and you are amazing, and you step up when you feel like someone is being mistreated. Braylon, you have done great things. You are doing amazing things this year, and I know you will continue to be an inspiration for your classmates and all those around you as you continue on through your journey here at Monroe and beyond.
I'm Rich, I'm with the Board of Education, and I'm really excited that you're here tonight, and it was great to hear all those wonderful things. Sounds like you're an amazing leader amongst your peers. You're quietly helping everybody, you're caring so much for them, and it's really one of the things that makes the school that you're in a very special place in building that community. So I wanted to say thank you, and on behalf of the board, I have a certificate to remember the evening, and then a Barnes & Noble gift card to get something for yourself. Thank you so much.
Next, Parkside Elementary, Mrs. Tramey for their October Staff or Student Excellence Award.
I am excited to introduce you to Abby tonight. Abby is a 5th grader in Mrs. Kiddo's class. And just on Friday, we went to pick you up and surprise you, right? Abby ran out of her house. She stood in her driveway. She's like, me? She was so excited that we were there. And we are incredibly proud of the kind, caring, wonderful 5th grader that you are. Mrs. Kiddo, you want to tell us how amazing she is in the classroom?
So Abby follows the 3 B's. She's safe, responsible, and respectful. She's a quiet leader. She's not very vocal, but when she is, it's important things that she's saying. She's safe on the playground. She always follows rules, and she helps her classmates do that as well. She's responsible. She's ahead in her 40-book challenge. She's already got 30 books completed this year, and she works hard to make sure that her homework's done on time. She's respectful. Just tonight, one of her classmates' moms is here tonight and said that when her daughter was new to Parkside, Abby was one of the friendliest and most kind girls to her daughter. So that's awesome. She's great to everybody in the class, and she's respectful to adults as well. So congratulations, Abby.
All right, Abby, great job. It's always amazing to hear wonderful things about the students in our schools and just the great and thoughtful way that you go about caring for other students and your classmates. It's great to see. I've got a certificate here for you to remember this evening, and then a Barnes & Noble gift card to help you try to get to those 40 books as quickly as possible. All right, congratulations. Great job.
All right, next, Mr. Boehm and Monroe Middle School's October Student Excellence Award winner.
So our award winner this month, Mr. Reese McIntosh, 7th grader. He was nominated by Ms. Ingalls, his math teacher, and I will let her take over.
It is my pleasure tonight to talk about Reese. I've gotten to see Reese over the years as a piano student at recitals that my children have been a part of. He's a really good piano player. This year I was excited to see Reese as my math student. I have quickly learned that Reese is the type of student that you wish everyone could be more like. He is prepared, he follows the lesson and notes, makes eye contact, participates, laughs at my jokes. Even when everyone else isn't. If the group starts getting off task, he redirects them. He has the desire to learn and a strong work ethic and the ability to make his table partners very comfortable with asking questions. Reese has been such an amazing table partner that I have pulled him to help teach other students during flex. He has the ability to make his peers think about problems and not give the answer. He is patient and kind with all peers that I have him work with. He even has one of his peers that said, "If you pull me again, I have to work with Reese." I have to agree with the student. Reese brings out the best in those he is around. I appreciate Reese and his help as a leader in class during flex and other places in school. I have seen him grow so much this year as a person and in math. Because if you can teach the concept, you absolutely understand it. He is the type of person and student that all teachers want more of in their class.
All right, congratulations, Reese. It's some pretty amazing stuff. That you're well on your way to being an amazing student and friend to your classmates, even as a 7th grader. It's just great to hear those positive qualities. I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the board for all the hard work that you do every day, the determination to do the right things and to help your fellow classmates, and recognize you with a certificate to remember the evening and a Barnes & Noble gift card to get something special for yourself. So thank you very much.
All right, and we have two students to honor from the high school this evening. We're going to start out with Mr. Jackson introducing us to September's Student Excellence Award winner from the high school.
All right, our September award winner is Marissa Bossberg, senior at Monroe High School. Many of you on the board, and one of you in particular, will know her quite well because she's been in front of you advocating for student representation on the board. So that's one of the reasons why she got nominated here. But Ms. Schmelzer and Ms. Depre also nominated her, and I'm going to let Ms. Schmelzer talk about why you nominated her.
Absolutely. I am proud to. All right. So I've watched Marissa grow from a quiet young girl in 6th grade into a poised young woman at MHS. She exemplifies the words leadership and professionalism. In middle school, she took on state leadership roles in student council, and then in high school, continued to grow her leadership skills with Student Senate, P Club, NHS, and more. Most recently, I have watched her represent the students of MHS at the Board of Education meetings, where she has presented twice now on proposing the addition of student representatives to the school board. Not only was she one of the best public speakers I've seen here at one of these board meetings, but her presentation was very professional, concise, and extremely informative, including examples from several other school districts that were very detailed. I was very impressed. At both meetings, Marissa also fielded questions from board members on the proposal, giving incredible data and information on other school districts, how they've implemented similar programs, and I just highly recommend her for this. And I can want me to read Mrs. Depre? Sure, I can read hers. Mrs. Depre can't be with us tonight. She's at MTG with the play. Marissa embodies the qualities of a true leader among her peers, one who cares not only about her own successes, but those of others. She showcases this by her participation in school clubs, maintaining academic excellence, conducting herself with poise and integrity, and lending a voice to her student body cohorts. Marissa is advocating for a collaboration between the student body and the Board of Education, which she bravely took the stage to petition the board in front of the public. She carries herself with a maturity that is rarely seen among her peers and holds a fierce determination to do the job right the first time. Excellent.
And Marissa's not just involved in student advocacy. The last time she wasn't here wasn't because she was just sleeping or something.
Yeah.
She was actually showing at the World Dairy Expo, and that's what she was doing. So
Right.
involved in a little bit of everything for Marissa. So
Absolutely.
a great nominee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Marissa. And I'm not sure that I could possibly say much more. It's wonderful having somebody like you around that is interested in not only being a participant in the things that are around you, but is interested in making that experience better for the people coming behind you. So I think that that's really a unique thing that you're doing for all of your classmates, and it's going to make a better experience for all of them coming through the high school. And I can't thank you enough for those efforts. So I've got a certificate here for you to remember the evening, and the Barnes & Noble gift card for you to get something for yourself. Excellent job. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Jackson's going to stay up there to introduce the October Student Excellence Award winner for the high school.
Our October award winner is also a senior, and that's Joe Medical. I just want to say I'm super, super proud of this young man. I've known him since freshman year, and I could easily say, and I won't steal your thunder, Ms. Davis, but just a ton of growth, and just what you would absolutely want to see from a student from beginning to end here. Pretty amazing, but again, I won't steal your thunder, so go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Davis. I'm one of the counselors at the high school, and I've been here for 5 years, and this is the first student that I've nominated for Student of the Month. And I think that Joe embodies so many of the qualities that we look for in a student and growth over time. He's grown so much in the past 2 years. He should be very proud of everything that he's accomplished. He's a hard worker, kind, and always wearing a genuine smile. Joe always takes time to ask others how they're doing. And I can vouch for this. When I talked to him before this nomination, we were sitting in my office and we were talking about classes and his placement at work, and we had this whole big conversation, and then I'm like, okay, you can go back to class, and he goes, no, first I wanna know how you are. And I just don't get that very often, and so, and he meant it. And so that was so great for him to ask how I was doing that particular day. His kindness makes a difference for everyone he comes in contact with at the high school. Also, on top of being a fantastic student and so very kind, he's also a successful participant in our Student Occupation and Academic Readiness Program, our SOAR program, as a youth apprentice. He's currently in the welding department at Monroe Truck Equipment. He's very dedicated to this position and goes above and beyond to make sure he is present and completing his daily tasks. He is also heavily involved in our metals-based coursework at MHS and a positive leader in the classroom setting. I know that he will accomplish many great things in the future, and I'm so proud of Joe and everything he's done.
Congratulations, Joe. It's fantastic to hear those things about you. It's great to hear that you're determined and that you're engaged and you're really, really excited about taking control of your future and taking some first steps in working through the SOAR program. I just, on behalf of the board, I wanted to thank you for all of your hard work and encourage you to continue to really go out and achieve. And got a certificate here for you to remember this evening, and a Barnes & Noble gift card to get yourself something. Continue to do a great job. Thank you.
All right, and the Staff Excellence Award for October will also be presented by Mr. Jackson.
All right, John, come on up.
So first, Cheryl, excuse my backside. The rest of you could excuse my front side.
You can already see why we love it. So the Staff Excellence Award winner is John King. A little bit, I guess, non-traditional for the Staff Excellence Award winner because John is actually a sub in our district. In a time where we have a really hard time getting subs, John has been a godsend, not just in being there, but in how he handles his job. I'm just going to highlight a few of the things you've done for us, John, if you don't mind. Like some of your different, I guess this is your highlight reel.
Okay.
Long-term sub in chemistry. We had a staff member who was out dealing with some health issues, and John stepped right in and said, yeah, I can be a chemistry teacher. Not only taught chemistry while she was out, but then when she was working her way back in, stayed on and helped her that way too. Just amazing working with her. Then he went to long-term sub in special education as a special education teacher. Currently a long-term sub as an ag teacher. This is just at the high school. He's worked at other buildings too. Long-term sub as social studies teacher as well, right?
Yes.
Possibly a long-term sub. I haven't asked you yet. I'm a teacher in the spring, so it's just.
Mary's already got me.
Besides subbing, he announces for football games. I mean, he's famous for that. Everybody loves the announcing voice. You can hear it. And other sporting events that we have. Supervises at sporting events. Just an all-around great guy, honestly. And it, believe it or not, it can be stressful sometimes working in education. And I strive to be like John a bit because his attitude, and Kathy, I don't know if it's always this way. His attitude is like, man, how can I handle my frustrations like that? That guy's got it down. So I just thank you for that model. And you were actually nominated by Mr. Brown and Ms. Carey. Do you guys have anything you want to say about?
It's just, we had the opportunity to work with John for 6 weeks this fall. He came in, he set up the class, he lesson planned, he did an exceptional job. He's very receptive to the students. Usually 6:30 in the morning, John's at the high school already. And he's part of that early crew, and he's very dedicated. And he will spend nights, he will spend weekends, he will spend whatever time he has to make sure the job is done. And that's above and beyond, I believe, what the expectation of a substitute is in the district. We were sitting in a department meeting talking about John previewing Alice drill to a group of special ed students, high-need special ed students, to prepare them. And at the end of the meeting, I opened up my email, and John had written learning targets regarding ALICE training and had sent them out to everybody. So as we're sitting there and John's participating, he's thinking that far forward and putting out learning targets for a class, and to me, it was just knocked it out of the park, and I turned to Donna, I'm like, Donna, this is just unbelievable. And it's such an honor to work with you, John. You're one of the great people that will cross my path in my life. I have total respect for you.
Thank you.
Can I just add?
Absolutely.
I had the joy of working with John in that long-term chemistry sub. I'm the chemistry special ed team teacher at the high school. And we had a couple other subs, and I would try to be like, no, we kind of do it this way, and they didn't want anything to do with it. And then John came in, and he was easy to work with, and we communicated well. And I called the teacher that was home, and I said, we want him. And so after 2 days with him, we asked if he could stay for the duration. So that was 3 years ago. So
Yeah, 3.5, yeah.
yeah. So.
Well, I specifically remember you walked in and I said, hey, do you want to take over? Go ahead. That's how we got started, so, yeah.
So, it's from fantastic since day one,
So beyond being a fantastic teacher, I was gonna, show what I asked Jenny if she had it, but this guy does a fantastic Colonel Sanders. Halloween. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, then the kids started teasing me about looking like Colonel Sanders, so I took that opportunity to get that outfit. The other one they teased me about is being Carl from the movie Up. That's kind of when I get grumpy with them. Here comes Carl.
Both great guys.
Oh, yeah.
So John, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to accept this. So, and on top of that, I did some long-term subs at the middle school, which I enjoy over there equally as with the high school. It's a great staff over there. Great staff at both schools. I don't think I could do long-term sub positions without the great staff help. All of these staff that's here, but the lesson plans are almost always in place. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure of mine to do it. So.
John, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you again for your flexibility, your poise, your dedication to just doing the best things and for our students and making them the most successful and being a kind and good friend to the people that you work with. So wanted to present this to you on behalf of the board, and if there's anything else you'd like to say, the floor is yours.
Oh, no, you don't probably want us. Thank you.
Yeah,
With
so
tonight's recipients, where would,
Jennifer, do you have a place that we're going to be taking photos of recipients?
Out in the hallway, please.
All right, so if the award recipients could go out into the hallway with Mrs. Babel, and she will arrange photographs for you. And certainly, as is always the case after our student and staff recognitions, you're welcome to stay, but you're also free to go if you aren't interested in sticking around for a board meeting. So there's certainly your choice. And I know we also have some people waiting in the vestibule, and they certainly can feel free to re-enter.
So as folks filter out, if there's anybody who's arrived since the start of the meeting and is here to make public comment this evening, I need you to sign in now. Okay. We'll move on to item number 5, our consent agenda. Do any board members wish to remove a consent agenda item for individual consideration? Hearing none, we'll read them into the record. We are approving the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on October 25th, 2021. Approval of support staff retirement, Gail Buell, Parkside custodian. Approval acceptance of community donations, Howard and Mary Ann Johnson, $25 to Backpack Buddies. Joanne Babler, $100 to Backpack Buddies. And the Brower family, $100 to Backpack Buddies. I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Dan and a second by Nikki. By voice vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. So we do have 2 members of the public here to make public comment this evening. So just a reminder, public comment is a vital part of feedback to the board on matters of interest to the public. For those of you unfamiliar with public comment, you're making a statement or a speech about your opinion on a topic pertinent to the business that the board conducts and within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. Because our board meetings are a meeting held in public and not a public meeting, there may not be a dialogue with you about your comment. But that means while the board may not respond directly, we will take them into consideration as matters come before the board. I ask you to limit your comment to 5 minutes. Begin with your name for the record, and we will start with Stacy Kavanaugh.
Good evening. I appreciate all the work that you all do on behalf of our students and community. Well, I know that it has been a tough year, and it's not been easy. You've continued to adjust to an ever-changing environment, and I appreciate it. When I looked at tonight's agenda, I saw that you were considering whether or not to change COVID-19 protocols. I appreciate that you've mandated universal masking for children in the elementary schools and in 6th grade at this time. I know that the discussion is reopened due to the recent news that the Pfizer vaccine has been received as emergency approval for children aged 5 to 11 last week. As a parent of a child in this age group, this is welcome and exciting news. I've been in touch with our daughter's pediatrician and was one of the first people to schedule a shot through the clinic when it was authorized. The shot is scheduled for this Saturday, November 13th. While I'm aware that there may have been appointments available sooner at local pharmacies, our family wanted to go through the extra precaution of going through the clinic. The good news is that our daughter, who is likely on the early end of children receiving the vaccination, will be fully vaccinated just before Christmas, meaning she has received both shots in the series and has had the 2-week time to develop immunity. I appreciate and affirm your desire to keep all children in person in school as much as possible. Universal masking for the elementary school until at least Christmas break would help to achieve this goal. We are at a high level of COVID-19 in the community right now. On November 4th, Greene County Public Health issued a press release. From October 27th to November 2nd, 107 Greene County residents tested positive for COVID-19. This was the county's largest 7-day total during the surge in cases this fall. In addition, public health investigated 14 COVID-19 outbreaks in the county since the start of October. In the past 7 days, 9 Greene County residents were hospitalized for COVID-19. Additionally, from September 26th to October 30th, there were 8 Greene County residents who died. To quote the press release, limiting the spread of COVID-19 means that students can attend school in person, employees can continue to go to work and make a living, and that residents in long-term care facilities can stay well. It has become more evident now than ever before that the health of community members is connected, and we must all work together to sustain our community's health. Greene County Public Health asks that all community members utilize the following preventative measures to protect the health of ourselves and others. Get the COVID-19 vaccine. Wear a mask when you're around other people. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Wash your hands and use hand sanitizer. Stay home often, especially when you are sick. Get tested for COVID-19 if you have symptoms. As parents, we stress to our daughter that while she's allowed to be fully who she is, she must always be aware about how her behavior and actions impact her classmates and teachers. I ask you as a member of the community, working together for the education and wellness of all our members, to continue to employ the COVID mitigation strategies that you have in place as we come into the November and December holidays. I, too, hope for a return for normal for our children, but we haven't reached the point to pull back just yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Kevin Bissell. Bissell? Yeah. Okay.
Kevin Bissell. What's the difference between middle school, high school, and elementary? There's a very big fundamental difference in my opinion, and that is middle school and high school, people age 12 and up have a choice if they want to get a vaccine, and students under 12 don't have that choice. That was a quote from Mr. Waske regarding masks during the school board meeting on September 13th. Ms. Matley, you expressed similar sentiment at that meeting, saying once they have a choice for a vaccine, it's got to be optional going forward. Since then, 4 notable things have happened. Number 1, COVID cases in the school district have gone from a high of 18 down to 10. Since this is a virus we're talking about, we know this number is not likely to ever return to 0 as long as testing continues. Number 2, the CDC published data in October showing that children aged 5 to 11 have about a 0.00008% chance, 1 in 1.25 million, of dying from COVID on an annual basis, despite many positive cases. The Monroe Elementary system has about 1,050 students, and that means that if we even never see cases subside, we can expect up to 1,190 years before we experience a single death of an elementary-aged child with COVID. We need 20,000 cases before we can expect a single death. We have 10. This is according to the CDC, although they seem to only talk about cases completely outside of the context of fatality rates, which is extremely deceptive. Number 3, vaccines became available for children aged 5 to 11. I checked for availability today and confirmed, quote, SSM Health is now scheduling appointments for COVID-19 vaccinations for kids aged 5 to 11. Vaccines are available through individual appointments or from a mass pediatric vaccination clinic this Saturday. Number 4, the guidelines for ESSER III funding have been released. Monroe is slated to receive $2.1 million over the next 3 years. Mr. Olson expressed at the October 11th board meeting that the first 2 rounds of funding were not tied to CDC guidelines, so he expected the same would be true of ESSER III funding, which was reasonable. Here's what we now know from DPI, who is administering these funds. Receipt of all ESSER III funding is contingent upon approval of the state plan. This includes developing strategies and implementing public health protocols, including, to the greatest extent practicable, policies in line with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for the reopening and operation of school facilities to effectively maintain the health and safety of students, educators, and other staff. This open-end bribe will apply for at least the next 3 years. So here we are. Your action or inaction tonight will clearly and unequivocally reveal your true intentions. Are you true to your word or a hypocrite? Are you motivated by the good of our children or by financial coercion? The writing on the wall for this school board is becoming more clear and clear every day. More and more clear every day. People notice now when they used to not notice. The makeup of school boards across the country will look very different a year from now. Collectively, you've been in the camp of mandating and coercing children and their parents over personal medical decisions, meddling with the bodies of our children, my children. I know a bunch of you guys, and I support a lot of what you have contributed to our community. Even so, Mama and Papa Bears do not take kindly to their children being bullied by adults. You have an opportunity to make the right choice tonight. But all other school districts are doing the same thing. If there was great wisdom to that, quoting Mr. Waske, then everybody around us would have already done it, or at least someone would have done it. Except all those districts are firmly in the grip of coercion by the pyramid scheme, which is the NSBA, beholden to every suggestion of financial incentive, and placated by the mutual complacency of neighboring districts. Cut the cord, lead by example. As water always flows down, unmanipulated finances always flow toward free environments. Allow freedom of choice. And what if we're the only ones? Watch the floodgates open to you, bringing more dollars to Monroe due to the leadership of Monroe, rather than the corruptibility of Monroe. It would start with students from neighboring districts open enrolling into Monroe and would continue with families choosing to live in and teach in Monroe over places like New Glarus. The criteria you have set to lift restrictions has been met. There's money on the table. Will you sell our children for a price? We await your action.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. Okay. On to item 7, old business. We don't have any this evening. Item 8, new business. We're going to discuss the 22 through 23 school calendar. This is a continuation of discussion from the last meeting. We're looking for action this evening, and to administration to cover their recommendation.
Yeah, as was mentioned last month, administration is recommending option A, which is a 181-day calendar as opposed to 178. It includes 3 days at the end of August that technically will be coded as summer school, and they will be optional attendance, but from talking to other districts that have done similar precursors to the September 1st start date, most area districts who've done this averaged at least 85% attendance, and because we have had our school years shortened for a variety of reasons over the last couple of years, and it seemed to make sense if we had an opportunity to add a few instructional days, we would. So that is our recommendation, that we support calendar option A. So I'm open to any questions or comments board members have.
Since our last discussion, has there been much feedback on this, Rick?
No, we got feedback from the survey that I cited the previous time, and I actually did not receive any emails, calls, or anything about this since the last board meeting from any staff member.
Any other questions or discussion?
If we did the extended Schedule A, we would be paying staff 3 extra days?
That is correct. But we also would be receiving both state and federal reimbursement for the state. We would be receiving FTEs, student instructional hour equivalencies that would be figured into our summer school totals. And then certainly we could also use federal money to assist in the payment of that. So Ron, last time we calculated approximately $75,000 for each additional instructional day.
Yeah, and I haven't ran the numbers to see what they are, obviously.
That was a 2-year-old number.
Right, if we do those programs this time, they would be funded through the grants.
Any additional questions? I would entertain a motion for one of those 2 options, if somebody would like to make it.
I would motion for option A.
Got a motion by Terry,
I'll second.
and a second by Teresa for option A. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Okay. Motion carries. Next item for discussion this evening is discussion and potential action on the COVID-19 protocol. So bringing this back before the board because we said we would revisit it after the emergency use authorization was granted. That was granted last week, I believe, by the FDA and then approved for use by the CDC's advisory panel and the director of the CDC. So now, as we're aware, the medical community is prepping and preparing vaccination clinics for parents to make the decision whether or not they want to vaccinate their children. So we are now going to take a little bit of time to talk through what possible changes could be on the horizon. But stress that we have a lot of time between now and when we would have to make this decision. So this could simply be just discussion this evening. So talked a little bit about the emergency use authorization. which is now out, any modifications to masking. So I'd like to talk about this in a specific order. Let me find my note here quick. So with that information, the first thing I think we're going to do is we're going to look to administration for our district COVID-19 update. So just an update on our current case count to understand what's going on within our buildings. After that, we'll briefly talk about possible timelines for vaccinations and the use of district facilities for a Greene County Public Health vaccination clinic. And then after we talk a little bit about that, we'll get into any possible future changes. Looking for some dialogue from board members about what you would like to see envisioned, if any changes to those protocols. So turn it over to Rick to give us a little update on our current COVID-19 state.
Yeah, so as was mentioned during public comments, the information was accurate up through Friday. Our high for active cases in the district was actually 2 days in September, the 8th and 9th of September, where we had 18 active cases, and since then we had fluctuated between 18. Our actual low was 7, but we had fluctuated in and around anywhere between 7 and 18 for quite a while. So we did have 10 active cases on Friday. If you looked at the website today, that was not a misprint. We actually have 27 today. We had a lot of people come up positive, and I have to mention that Sam Kubley, I don't know if Sam is, oh, Sam's walking in the door. Sam put in a lot of time this weekend, and as we were getting email updates, or as the administration was getting email updates, they were with great frequency this weekend. You know, I've had a few board members ask me why, and I don't know. The good news is, from a quarantine standpoint, we have fewer quarantines per positive case than we had previously, and what I mean by that is we had 64 students in quarantine district-wide for 10 cases on Friday. Even though that number's jumped to 27, our quarantine number's 109. So it went up 17 cases, but our quarantine numbers only went up about 40. So it's good that we didn't have as many quarantines this time around. But that is an accurate number. We're hopeful that some of the people, we do have some people coming off of their positive status this week, so hopefully that number will come down, and hopefully we don't have a lot more people testing positive. As far as distributions between the schools, and this is today based on the updated numbers, and again, these are on the website if anyone wants to reference them. We have 5 positive cases currently at Abe, and forgive me, I have to scroll on the list. Northside is 9, Parkside is 1, middle school is 9, and high school is 3. Now, the good news is there are some positive numbers to be taken away from this. At the high school, we did have a stretch of, and I'm quickly counting this with on the spreadsheet, we had actually 12 consecutive school days at the high school where we didn't have active cases. And actually, we had some increased numbers at Parkside about 2 weeks ago, and I think the board was aware of those. Those numbers have recovered rather quickly. Unfortunately, the numbers at Northside and the middle school have gone up significantly. So that's an update on our current numbers. Any questions from board members on any of that data? I did email you the complete data spreadsheet previous to the meeting, so you guys could reference it while I was talking, and it looks like many of you are, so.
Rick, do you know, excuse me, for the middle school, do you know what the distribution is, grades 6, 7, 8?
I can look that up, so I will look that up, but I don't have it immediately handy. You have it?
It's mostly 8th grade.
There you go. Other questions? So we're aware that
SSM is doing a pediatric vaccination clinic this weekend. So parents who would like to get their children vaccinated age 5 to 11, we encourage you to reach out to them and schedule those appointments. In addition to that, with the district is planning to allow Greene County Public Health to hold a vaccination clinic. Is that correct? Can you cover that for us?
Yeah, so November 19th and December 10th, 19th would be your first dose, 10th would be a second dose. It will not be during school hours, it's after school on a Friday after early release. We only have one site, that would be Northside Elementary, obviously it's completely optional, and it will not be during the school day.
Any questions from board members on that one? So now we can spend a little bit of time discussing some possible future changes to COVID-19 protocols, the timing of which I think is something that we would want to discuss and have a vibrant discussion as a board about when and if we decide to change those protocols. So I'd like to start off with any thoughts from board members about where you would like to see protocols change, if and possibly when, in light of the emergency use authorization and the availability of vaccination clinics.
Well, following what we agreed to in August as our protocols and our COVID guidelines, I think now that the 5 to 12-year-old vaccine is out there, I would like to see in 2 weeks we go to non-mandatory optional mask for all ages.
Do we know, Monroe Clinic, have they told you, I mean, if everybody that wanted this can get it, can they get it on Saturday, or are they waiting for weeks?
Vaccinations are not in short supply.
Okay.
You know, certainly, I think you're gonna have a wide variety of vendors. You'll have, you know, some of the pharmacies that do this, you know, on an appointment basis, and we have a few of them locally. Certainly you have SSM Health, you have Greene County Public Health that is having one a standalone at their site, and they're also doing school sites, I believe, in every school in Greene County on different days based on availability.
You're doing it in Walmart as well.
And that could very well be the case. So I don't think availability is much of a challenge. I think availability was much more of a challenge, you know, when the first vaccines were available to adults. And remember, there was the whole phasing in of different age groups and different vulnerability groups because the vaccines were in short supply. That isn't the case at this time.
Well, you said, Rick, they're gonna offer one at the district the 19th?
November 19th would be a first dose, and December 10th would be a second dose. And that's something that as a board, you know, you guys can discuss is, I mean, you know, is it when people have an opportunity to get the first dose, or is that when people have had their second dose? Is it when they're 21 days past the final, you know, the second administration? And then ultimately, you know, as you guys have that discussion, you know, that's really a decision that you guys can make, and what that means to you is a decision that you guys can make as far as the board is concerned. You know, I said it before and I will say it again, I definitely think that when people have had an opportunity to get vaccinated, that they should have a choice. Parents should have a choice, and, you know, I haven't changed my opinion on that, even though our numbers went up. The reality is this, is I think as a board, you have to decide, does that mean the first moment that it's available to anyone? Or does that mean, is there a certain time period that is associated with that? And that's ultimately your decision.
But likely the pharmacies are offering it, the clinic obviously. You have it in district on the 19th.
That would be correct.
So, I mean, to me, you know, we decided in past meetings that the off-ramp would be approval of the vaccine. You know, recall that. So I don't think it's a question of if, it's a question of when. perhaps inclined to agree with Terry and Cheryl, but perhaps Monday the 15th would be the day. To me, if a parent wants their child to be masked in school, they have every right to do that. This question I think that we were faced with is, are we going to mandate it or not? So that would be my suggestion.
And if I'm looking at a calendar, I think the other thing to consider is we know that there's two, it's not just one dose, it's 2 doses. So if you got it on the 19th, the next one you said is the 10th. And then
Well,
2
right.
weeks after that would be
Right.
fully immunized,
But
right?
that's
So,
the in-district offer.
right,
Yeah,
correct.
mathematically, based on my availability of local availability, I think the first, and again, if somebody knows this to be different than what I am aware of, please inform me. I believe that Saturday the 6th was the first that I was hearing of people receiving of the ages 5 through 11, but that was the earliest I had heard of it. If somebody has knowledge that's better than that on the board, feel free to share it with me.
But if not even the 6th, we know the 13th Monroe Clinic is having one. Saturday the 13th.
And we know
So-
that the 19th, like the following Friday, that's when we
So,
know it's available today.
Right.
so I think that with the authorization, and then I think folks get a week or 2 to consider their options and decide whether or not it's right for them. To make an appointment and get in to receive the vaccination. If we cast that out even from the 13th, then the second shot could be no earlier than the 4th, and then 2 weeks after that is the 18th. That's fully vaccinated. We are out of school. Are we in at all the week of the 20th?
Yeah, we are. So
The
our
first
school
2 days?
schedule that week is through,
Wednesday?
Yeah, through Wednesday.
So I guess from my perspective, I would say that the earliest that I would make masking optional is that date when full vaccination status is the most achievable for everybody that has the option to go and get it. But then there's 3 days left before we head into the holidays. So logically, for me, it would make sense for us to say when we return from holiday break, masking would be optional.
Are you saying Christmas?
You're
Holiday,
saying
yeah, after-
Thanksgiving or
No,
Christmas?
sorry, Christmas. So the holiday break at the end of December.
Oh, I don't know that I agree with that.
Okay.
That's where I'm at though.
And that's why we're
And
having
at
the
the end of
discussion now.
Christmas too.
I think we need to give kids the opportunity to be fully vaccinated. But the full period of time, and what's 3 days?
But doesn't that,
But the
am I
current,
not looking
the
at the
current
calendar?
safety protocol is to mask. So if somebody is going through the vaccination protocols and they get their first shot, they presumably are somewhat immunized. But a parent that would like their child to be fully vaccinated before they unmask can certainly continue to mask their child in school. I mean, I'm trying,
Yeah,
just trying to take a logical approach to this.
I hear where you're coming from, so I think for me, we arrived where we are because we know that masking is most effective when everybody's doing it. Our shared goal is that we have the most in-person contact hours for these kids. Right now, our quarantine protocols and our approach to that has ensured that for the elementary schools right now. And after seeing information about achievement gaps and issues, particularly with those first grade kids that missed so much the year before, I want to make sure that the approach that we take is focused on making sure that we get as many in-person hours for those at-risk kids already. So if we, let's say, I think you proposed, did you propose next Monday?
I did.
You proposed next Monday. So let's say next Monday, we go to masking optional, which then just exposes all are a large portion of that population. It also changes the way that we treat quarantines. So once those kids are no longer both masked, and the kids who are not fully vaccinated, now neither of them have the opportunity to avoid a quarantine because they're not fully vaccinated, and then they weren't both masked, so now they're close contacts. I think it would have an adverse effect on the number of contact hours that those kids would have, and they are the most vulnerable for us right now. So just from that point of view, that shared goal, I think that it makes the most sense to wait until we return in January to say, okay, everybody's had ample opportunity to get vaccinated. They've had ample opportunity to get both shots and be fully vaccinated. And then whatever we decide to do to change our quarantine protocols or our masking protocols, I think that we do it then. That's my perspective. That's how I'm unpacking where I got to here in January.
Can we get a refresher on what our current quarantine protocols are, Rick?
Sure. Right now, if you are a close contact and you're vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine. If you are a close contact and you're unvaccinated, you have to quarantine for either 10 days, or you can come back and test on no later than the 6th, come back the 7th. If you can get results that quickly, sometimes functionally it's the 8th. We are going to get to test the state.
That's discrimination.
We're not.
No.
Sir?
I want, no.
Sir, no,
I don't answer
no.
to you.
Excuse me.
I don't answer to you.
You will maintain the
You need
quorum.
to explain to me
You
how
will
that's
maintain
not
the quorum
discrimination
during the
between
meeting,
vax and
or you
unvaxxed
will be
kids.
asked to leave. You'll be asked to leave.
Try it. I want,
Maintain the quorum, or I'll ask you to leave.
He's asking a question, that's all.
I'm asking a question.
We don't,
Just
so it's
explain
not,
to me
it's,
how
it's,
that's not discrimination between vax and unvaxxed kids. Pretty simple.
It's a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. It's not a Optimist meeting or a Lions Club meeting. Members of the community don't get to shout at the board
I'm
and
not
ask
shouting,
questions.
I'm asking a question.
If you wanted to make public comment, you had the opportunity to do that at the beginning of the
Okay.
meeting. You chose not to do it.
Right.
So then I ask that you remain quiet. You may observe. If you cannot do that, if you cannot observe decorum, I will ask you to leave.
And ask the taxpayer to leave a school board meeting?
So, I
Yes,
believe,
I will.
back to your question, Phil, it's 10 days unless you test back and can return on the 7th or functionally 8th, depending upon how quickly you get your test results back. That's what's currently in place.
So what is the rule for vaccination? Is it just, isn't it fully vaccinated in 14 days?
That is correct. It's fully, right now we've been following the fully vaccinated.
Which is what Rich's point was.
Which is that's what we've considered vaccinated. When we get our information from the Wisconsin Immunization Registry, which is a registry that we have full access to, and nobody can get vaccinated without us having that registry. If you get vaccinated in the state of Wisconsin, it's on WIR, okay? So we receive that information, and we've always considered fully vaccinated after they've had the second dose. Now, again, if you as a board want to make a different decision, then that's certainly within your parameters.
After they've had the second dose, or after they've had the second dose in another 14 days?
After the second dose. We haven't included the additional days.
So then that would be technically, if we went with this Saturday, the 13th, is the Monroe Clinic vaccination. The 27th would be the second one.
No, it would be the
3 weeks
it's
later.
21 days
3
apart.
weeks later. So
It'd
the
be,
4th.
it'd be the 4th.
And then the
So then
18th.
technically they could, what?
No, he's including the additional days. What
Okay,
she's
So I'm
asking,
saying is, what our protocol is right now would be the 13th, and then it would be the 4th. So kids could technically be considered with what we have now, the 6th.
that would be correct.
Can you clarify? I'm confused. So you're saying we're not making people, I'm sorry.
We've considered
I'm
people
sorry.
vaccinated after their second dose.
Got it.
They haven't
Okay.
made them
And
Immediately
got
after
2
the second
weeks.
dose, not the 2
I've
weeks.
been waiting the 14.
You've been waiting the 14 days, so.
Oh.
So we are after 14 days?
Okay, that's how I've been doing it. Because to me, that's fully vaccinated.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be December 4th? is
So
it?
then,
Wouldn't be-
that's
it'd
what
be
I
2
just
weeks
asked for
later.
clarification on, okay. So then it would be the 18th.
Yes.
of students that are vaccinated right now that can get it?
Yeah, so 55% of the high school and mid-40s of the middle school. It kind of fluctuates. I think we're up to what, 46-ish?
44 at last count.
Okay, so mid-50s and mid-40s as of Friday. I think that was the most recent data we pulled, right?
Okay. So again, we can take action or we cannot. We can reserve the right to have a little more discussion on this. Generally, on matters of importance to the board, we'll talk about it once. We'll bring it back for a second discussion. If it's the will of the board to take action this evening, that is certainly within our power.
So just so I am following your conversation, we were talking about masking, and then a question was asked about quarantine. So I don't know if you want to deal with those matters separately. So I don't know if you want to continue the conversation about masking and then get into quarantines, or if you want to put them together.
So the initial discussion about masking is what I'm talking about right now. So if somebody would want to take action this evening on what our masking protocols are, and even if we took action this evening, it could be setting a date in the future that we would then need to hold to unless there was a supermajority of the board that wanted to change it afterwards. So is there a desire this evening to change or set a date for changes to the masking protocols tonight? Otherwise, we'll bring it back at the very next meeting for action.
I fully agree that we talked about that, and I still agree that once there's a vaccine for elementary kids, we need to relook at this. I guess I was under the impression too that meant fully vaccinated. So, I don't know that.
Well, it certainly
But I
sounds like we
understand.
have different opinions among the board
Right.
members on that, so I think it would be
But I-
something that.
So if it's something.
But I agree with you, Teresa, and I was adding it wrong, so,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, what I have said all along is once people have choice, well, I think that choice includes being able to be fully vaccinated.
Mhm.
And I don't think that that's gonna be tomorrow then, but I think then that as soon as we're back from spring break, Christmas break, it's mask optional, and that's it. I mean, that'll be my vote going forward, because we've given people the 3 weeks, and then they get the second one, we've given them the time, and now we're already at Christmas break, so, and then we're back. Yeah, I would support that. 100%.
Comfortable with that.
So do you need someone to make a motion?
Only if somebody wants to make a motion.
Yeah, if you would make a motion, I think you would be setting a date for
Would be
something.
setting a date for something.
So
you
when
have to-
when are we back then, if we're gonna make a motion with the date, we probably should know when are we back from Christmas break?
Well, the first day we're back is January 3rd.
Weather permitting.
I'm sorry?
Weather permitting.
Right.
Weather permitting. That would be correct. So, yeah, I mean, there is, from your perspective, I think I don't think, it sounds to me like there isn't universal agreement on, when one is vaccinated. And ultimately, I think as a board, if you want to set a date, there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and it sounds like there isn't complete agreement on that. And ultimately, I mean, you guys could set any date you want for masking. You could do now, or you could take action at the next meeting. In case anyone's interested in my thought process, I said it before and I'm gonna say it again, I think that when vaccination is available, that people should have the opportunity to get their children vaccinated, and then they can have a choice. I think there could be great debate about when one's vaccinated. I think that debate will probably mirror whether people are actually getting vaccinated or whether people are not getting vaccinated and want that date to be as immediate as possible. I can understand either argument, quite frankly, because I think that you're talking about something that many people have already made their decisions on. I don't think there's a a lot of families of elementary age students, grade ages 5 through 11. I don't think there's a lot of families that are uncertain about the decision they're making. I think most families have had plenty of time to discuss this and knew it was coming. I think a lot of families have made their decisions, and I imagine they'll act fairly quickly. Ultimately, I think there's some natural breakpoints. One natural breakpoint would be, after Thanksgiving break. Another one natural breakpoint would be after the holiday break. And then I think for some, people, the natural breakpoint already occurred because emergency youth authorization has been granted. So ultimately, I'm in favor of making masks optional. I think that if you would ask me what I think makes the most sense, I think it would be a time in which people could get the second shot. But that's just my opinion, and then ultimately, it's mine and nobody else's. I think that that's kind of where I stand on masking. I've said it from the beginning, and I haven't changed my outlook on that. I don't think we can, I don't think it's sustainable to do what we're doing forever. But the reality is, I also think that people who want their children to get vaccinated before everyone's unmasked, at least I think, from my perspective, I think it's worthy of consideration. But that's just my perspective, and I'm not a voting member, so I think, if somebody wants to make a motion, they can. If people want to table that issue until the 22nd and make a decision. I think there's a lot of people who want us to make a decision, whether they be in this room or in the community. I think at some point people are going to want to know where we plan to go on this, and I think at some point we should get there. I don't think it's unreasonable to table it until the next meeting. I don't think that's out of sorts. I think that continuing to delay the decision is only going to frustrate people.
Rick, do you get information from Green County Health? Would we know in 2 weeks what percentage of the school population has been vaccinated in the K-5?
No, we would probably know through the Wisconsin Immunization Registry much more quickly, because there are many entities that are not affiliated with public health that are doing vaccinations. So WIR, how quickly, Sam, do you get updates on that?
They happen real time, so it's just a matter of pulling the information.
So it's pretty accurate. I think they, probably upload it within a couple of days.
Right, I'm just curious, in 2 weeks, if that trend is like this and then levels out. It would be curious just because I think the question that would answer for me then is the parents that want their children vaccinated have done it. And those that aren't, haven't.
But they've only done half of it.
Well, I understand, but I think the trend would be true though. If you're getting the first shot, if they got the first shot, they'll get the second. If you didn't get the first, they probably won't get the first.
Yeah, I think nationally and statewide, I think there's about a 5% discrepancy at the most, so I would tend to agree with you. There are some people who choose not to get the second shot, just to be true to the data.
Okay. Yep, I'll make one final call for a motion on the masking piece.
I'll make a motion to go to mask optional on the 22nd
of
November.
Got a motion by Terry to go to masks optional on November 22nd.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Cheryl, or a second by Cheryl. So there's a motion by Terry and a second by Cheryl to go mask optional on November 22nd. And before we vote, does anybody have any additional discussion or questions about that motion?
I have a question for Terry. Do you mean pre-K 6? Because we're already mask optional at 7-12.
Yes, sorry. So pre-K 6 would be mask optional come the 22nd. I just feel people at that point can have a choice, regardless. You can still wear a mask if you so choose.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment to the second. Cheryl, are you okay with the amendment to the motion as stated? Okay. So we have a motion by Terry, second by Cheryl, to make masking optional for pre-K-6 starting November 22nd. So as part of the discussion on that decision, again, I'll just reiterate, I don't think that that gives people enough time to make the decision, get the shot, and then realize the protection from it. And I wouldn't want to get into a situation where we then have to make decisions about, we have a spike in cases and we're making decisions about increasing the number of mitigation controls we have, or hopefully, I hope we don't have to close the building at all this year. But I think it puts us in danger of doing that if we don't approach this correctly, so.
I'm pretty sure people had their thoughts in order prior to the ruling, so I'm just trying to stick with what we agreed to.
If this is discussion on the motion,
This is discussion of the motion, yes.
and I don't know what Robert's rules holds here, but the 22nd is Monday. Wednesday, the kids are out for Thanksgiving break. And I'm wondering if the motion might be amended to the 24th rather than the 22nd.
So that would be a question to Terry, who made the motion.
The 24th?
You mean the 25th, because we're in school on the 24th,
Yeah,
so you'd want them to come back for one day?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, and I think his.
We're not in school on the 24th.
In other words, ask until Thanksgiving break.
So then that would be
Monday then.
Monday
the
29th.
29th would be optional.
That would be the first school day.
Correct.
And I think we all agree that that we want to provide some choice for families and parents. But I think I don't think we're kind of a consensus on what vaccination means. And that's what I'm hearing. And so I tend to agree with Rich, and I think I want to make sure that we first get kids in school as much as we can, and knowing that some of those protocols that we have in place are allowing that, and then allowing families to have the option to be fully vaccinated.
And certainly, I'll reiterate, I agree with Rich and you, Teresa, that, none of us want to be in a position where we have to consider closing a classroom or a school. And I think that should go without saying. That's what makes it so difficult for me. While at the same time, for Terry's, I agree with you that, we said that the off-ramp for us would be CDC approval of the vaccine for the younger kids. And if we're wrestling a little bit with timeline on that, of course, and what is fully vaccinated. So I mean, it's, for the people attending tonight, that's the difficulty that we struggle with. Every conversation we have related to COVID-19 protocols, it's very difficult for us.
Okay, so we can handle this as friendly motion or friendly amendment if Terry would be interested in.
That's not really how it works. You'd have to make a motion.
You would have to make a motion.
To amend the motion, you'd have to second it, and then we vote on the amendment first, and then we vote on the subsequent motion.
Technically, because
I
the
think we need to
chair
follow-
said and repeated the motion, it is a motion on the table. So Dan's correct, once the motion is on the table, in order to alter it, you have to have a motion, a second, and then a successful vote to alter the motion once it's already been on the table. So if you'd like to make a motion, Phil, to amend the motion that we currently have.
I'll move to amend Terry's motion, changing the date to the 29th of November rather than the 22nd, at which time mask optional would apply.
Okay. So we've got a motion by Phil to amend the motion on the floor as he listed to make masking optional beginning November 29th. Is there a second to that motion? Second to the motion? Second to the motion.
can we discuss that or not? Like, if anybody,
Well, it has to have a second before it can be discussed. Okay, hearing no second, the motion fails. So we're back to our original motion that is on the floor. So we have a motion by Terry and a second by Cheryl to make masking optional for pre-K through 6 beginning on November 22nd. One more time, any additional discussion or conversation on that motion?
I guess I'd just like to say that it doesn't give the kids, the families, the opportunity to want the kids to be fully vaccinated. I know this has already been said, but, and I think what it's gonna do with our current quarantine rules, unless we're just gonna throw those out the window next, but it's gonna subject more kids to being quarantined. And I don't think that's the right way to go. We can wear a mask for a few more weeks and be safe, and then come back after winter break.
Now, if this motion fails, another motion could be made with a new date, just so it's clear to everybody. Okay. Any more discussion?
It was available November 3rd.
Thank you. So this will be a roll call vote. Nikki, would you call the roll?
Yep, Dan Bardoff.
No.
Rich Jeffrey.
No.
Terry Ellison.
yes.
Teresa Keen.
No.
Nikki Matley, no. Cheryl McGuire.
Yes.
Dylan McGuire.
No.
Bill Vosberg.
Yes.
Lisa, yes.
Yes.
And Tim Wolf was absent.
Okay. Motion fails. Before we move on to discussing quarantines, any other actions on masking?
I would make a motion to make mask optional for pre-K through 6, effective start of, after coming back from winter break.
January 3rd?
January 3rd would be that day.
Or
January 3rd.
snow days?
Can I make another motion at the same time?
Not one.
We need a second.
At a time. Dan made a motion, we're looking for a second. I would second that motion.
January 3rd. Is that how you're writing it, January 3rd?
Yep, pre-K through 6, mask optional beginning January 3rd.
And then Rich second. All right.
Does that match your intent?
Yep.
Okay.
So now we're gonna have to discuss that, right?
Any discussion on the motion that's on the table to make pre-K through 6 masks optional beginning January 3rd?
I just feel like that's longer than we need to know. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one will be a roll call vote as well.
And I'm just writing them all down.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. Ready? So everybody understands the motion, right? Dan made a motion, pre-K through 6, mask optional, seconded by Rich, starting January 3rd. Dan Bardoff.
Yes.
Rich Jeffrey.
Yes.
Terry Ellison.
No.
Teresa Keen.
Yes.
Nikki Matley, yes. Cheryl McGuire.
No.
Dylan McGuire.
Yes.
Bill Vosberg.
No.
And Tim is absent.
Okay, motion carries. All right, next item for discussion this evening is quarantine, and if we're going to make any changes to quarantines or quarantine protocols. So Rick, would you review our current quarantine protocols again, please?
That's correct. So right now, unvaccinated students who are close contacts and staff, 10-day quarantine unless they test back, and then it's 7 days with a negative test on the 6th or later.
Okay. So,
Are there any changes or suggestions?
Well, I will tell you that right now, certainly none of the health agencies support any changes beyond that. Nobody in the county does anything differently. We did have one county school that was hoping to test to stay, but they ended up running into problems with their vendor. So I did want to at some point talk a little bit about test to stay, because I do think that I've heard that in whether it be late November or early December, we will be getting some guidance from both DHS and CDC on test to stay. So I do, I think at some point the board should at least know what that term means and have a knowledge base of it. So I don't know if now's the time, or if you guys want to talk about quarantines that are in place first.
Well, I think it's a modifier to quarantine, so we could talk about that and talk about test to stay, and then we could see if that's something that we want to entertain as a modifier.
Yeah, so there's a few school districts in Wisconsin that have gone to it. Probably the largest one in Wisconsin is La Crosse, that started 2 weeks ago with test to stay. In fact, I think I shared that article with the board in your weekly update when they started it, but there's a few other districts that have done it. Basically, that is in lieu of quarantining that, so if you're in close contact with somebody, whether you're a staff member or a student, that you would actually have either an antigen test or a rapid COVID test on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6 days, and then you could return on the 7th. So basically, every day that you would be in close contact, you would come to school if you tested negative. So, pro is, obviously, you can get people in school and not in quarantine, so. Negative part about it is, as of today, we have 109 students, and, well, no staff today, 109 students that would fall into that group, and that's a lot of daily tests to do. Whether you do it at the school or whether you do it at a neutral site. We actually talked about some of the logistics of it. I think it might be difficult to do it at every single school because it's going to take at least 2 people to collect and read all the tests. So it might be more efficient to do it in like a building like this, where people could come. You could open it at a given time in the morning, say 7 in the morning, and say if you want a test to stay, that you could come get an antigen or a rapid test, and then for lack of a better term, be permitted to go back to school. So the early results have been that it's worked pretty well, that it's been a viable option. It's probably more common in the southern part of the country, but it's something that the CDC's been collecting data on quite aggressively. And I actually received from the Superintendent's Association some requests for, hey, if you're doing test to stay, would you be willing to share your data and whatnot? And certainly we couldn't because we weren't doing it. And if the board's interested, I would be willing to reach out to Aaron Engel and La Crosse and see if they would be willing to share some of their early experiences with it, if it's something that the board would be interested in exploring. I think we'd have to come up with some protocols for it, and I've talked to Sam about it, and obviously it would require some work, but it's certainly another option. If people are truly concerned about being in school, certainly a way to get people back sooner and provide some monitoring and safety. The challenge has been for some of the districts who are doing testing, the vendors, the third-party vendors that have been servicing schools, many cases have proven to be unreliable and have had difficulty hiring people. As we all know, the workforce is not as strong as far as people needing jobs as depends on which end you're looking at it. But a lot of these entities have had trouble finding people. So I think if we explored this, I think we would probably have to start with a neutral site, like something like this building, and they would come in a separate entrance from our students, and certainly we could work on the logistics of it. So I don't know if there's any interest in the board discussing it or not.
I also know that we had talked about wearing masks instead of quarantines. Is that something we can vote on again? I mean, what are everybody's opinions still on that?
Rick, was there any discussion with your admin team? We had a lot of discussion about that when we were at the high school, about, could the parents choose to put their kid in a mask and let them come back to school instead of making them stay home for 10 days? And
I don't think there was any, and again, other
There was some
administrators
concerns
on
about
the admin
logistics.
team. Yeah, and I'm answering the question, and that is, I didn't think that there was a great deal of support for that, because I think the reality is, most of the recommendations from the CDC, and again, I understand some people don't believe in it, I get it, but they're always recommending both parties masks, not an individual. So I don't recall, and Ron Todd, Joe, if I'm missing something, but I don't recall just allowing people to come back, instead of being quarantined, to come back masked. I don't
Well, we
recall.
voted on it, 5-4.
Right, and I don't recall any administrators asking, us to do that and saying that the mistake was made, but I'm asking.
I don't recall.
At that time of that meeting, you made the comment that somewhere in the round of 40 or 50% of the kids that were in quarantine were ultimately testing positive.
Well, 7 or 8% of the actual net people. So if you take all the people who were quarantined, 7 to 8% eventually tested positive. But if you take it by individual, meaning that, let's say 8 people were quarantined as a result of one positive, 50% of the group that went with one student's case were testing positive. So if you take the total people, it was 7 to 8%, all the people who were quarantined. But if you follow Rich tests positive and a group of people were quarantined as their close contacts to Rich, half the time someone in that group tested positive.
And is that still, we think, the case?
I don't think we've run the numbers since that board meeting.
Not specifically, but we are still seeing spread, and we have started to encounter spread at our elementary levels also.
If you
Whereas
wanted,
prior we didn't.
if you wanted to do numbers on that, we could have it for the 22nd. I don't think we could put those together right now.
So as far as the test to stay option is concerned, if it's something that we could reliably count on, and there wasn't a barrier to the folks getting it, I understand it's more convenient to bring them all to one building to administer the test, but I'm thinking about like elementary students on buses, and we're not gonna bus them here to give them a test and then bus them to the elementary school. So, but I would like to have an option for people to remain in school after we relax and go to mask optional, because if you have not been vaccinated, it's probably pretty unlikely with masking optional that you're going to be amongst a group of individuals that are all masked. So then all those COVID positive folks, all the close contacts automatically become quarantines. There's no way to keep them there. So the test to stay seems like an option that could assure us that we haven't returned, that 50% chance of a positive individual back into the student body. But I'm worried that we'll go down that path and we won't be able to process the test sufficiently, or there'll be some type of supply chain breakdown, or.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, just being candid with you, I don't know if we know. We do think that it would be difficult, because we really would need 10 people to do tests at 5 sites, and that's a lot of people. We have a health assistant at each building, but many times they're fielding calls and actually helping administer medication early in the morning. So.
Unless you did one site, waited for the results, and then released the kids to the school.
That's what we were talking about. So, and I think what Rich was saying is that's a challenge because of like busing and those kinds of things. So, you're absolutely right. We would need fewer people if we had a district, like a district site. So.
Well, obviously, one thing that we could do, which I think Phil originally brought up that we never actually voted on, is to require, right now we require both, like Rich said, both. So one wearing a mask and it has COVID, and another student not have, or both have to have masks.
Mm-hmm.
So we could lessen that to say, if someone has COVID, is not wearing a mask, but my kid wears COVID.
Where's a mask, I think.
Sorry, it's been a long night. Wears a mask, that they're not necessarily quarantined.
See, that's, I guess, where I'm kind of, that's why I liked it the last time when we talked about, could we somehow, at the point, at the time the comment was said, well, the kids they're not gonna wear masks, their parents don't want them wearing masks, and I get that, but I think if they had the choice between my kid stays home for the next 10 days or they go to school in a mask,
But that's different.
but, well,
No, what I'm saying is beforehand, before they're exposed. You're saying there's a close contact, send them back in a mask. We voted that's different than what Phil originally brought to the board. The board was, child A has COVID,
okay.
not wearing a mask. Kid B is wearing a mask. Because we have to require both of them to have masks, B is on quarantine automatically.
Right.
We could say if the child B is wearing a mask,
They don't have to.
they don't have to quarantine. Then we can require that they monitor for their conditions and stuff like that.
But this test to stay concept could fix that too, right?
It could, yeah.
Right? Like, I think it's worth looking at to say, is it, and maybe I guess I would say to the people in the district and things, is it feasible, doable? What would it look like? And to come back to us, like, what would this look like? And is it something we could do? So anything we can do to keep kids in school is important.
We can discuss we can discuss these changes to quarantine or test to stay. The intention is to discuss them tonight, and if we need more information, we can ask the administration to bring that back to us. And I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can discuss that stuff. We have some time before these protocols could likely change, so.
Well, I think you're right, Rich. I think maybe Rick ought to look into a little further. Is it feasible to conduct a test to stay program? How would it work? So we're kind of putting them on the spot tonight. Questions.
Oh, certainly we can try to have information together for the November 22nd meeting, and if we still have questions at that time, I mean, we'll just report the things we don't have answers to.
Right.
The board can.
And if the answer is it's undoable, then at least we've vetted that out.
Yep.
I would be interested in furthering that discussion that Dan's talking about. If a child is preemptively wearing a mask and it becomes a close contact, is he or she still quarantined? I mean, the driving force for me is as I look back through Rick's Google Doc sheet here, 20 to 109 kids have been quarantined. That's a lot of kids. And they don't have the resources that they had last year. And I'm talking about the parents too. So I mean, that's why I guess I keep coming back to that. And in the same breath, I don't want to close classrooms, I don't want to close schools. I mean, that's, I think, the universal thought that we all have. But
That's why I was willing to try to wear a mask when it was at 7%, because why not try it? The kids really need to be in school. Now, if we voted on it tonight, I think it'd be split anyway, but.
I would be comfortable with coming back in 2 weeks to both of those items.
Okay.
Because there's some kids that have been out quarantined 3 times, right? Or more, I
A
don't.
couple.
I know.
No fours yet.
And so maybe that's not something else that we can connect with us. Like, what would that, because I always struggle to, what does that look like in the classroom? What would that look like, if the teacher now has to monitor who's wearing masks and when, and are we writing it down, are we telling, I mean, is it even, is that doable too? So I think to know on everybody's end, what's doable and what could be a potential plan.
I think it'd be easier to know
If we
have
can-
to,
Mhm.
but the beforehand thing would be hard. Okay,
Yeah.
did this person have a mask on?
So,
Or
I don't
not,
know if
the
that's
last
something.
whatever.
I mean, which is why I can see why the test to stay is interesting for districts that are doing it, because then they don't need to keep track of those things.
Right.
They're saying, okay, they're centrally testing all of these individuals, and then the burden isn't on the educators, people in the building to keep track of, well, you're supposed to be wearing a mask today, and you're not.
And again, shout out to district nursing
No
and
kidding.
teachers.
Thank you very much.
Keep track of all this. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hearing we're gonna ask administration to bring more information about test to stay back to us. I'm also hearing that we're gonna talk more about changes to quarantines at the next meeting. We're not looking to make any changes to that tonight. Okay. Any other COVID-19 related discussion or anything that you you'd like to have us discuss? No? Okay. All right. Move on to informational items, boardsmanship and administration. Any administration item updates?
Yeah, so just a couple of things. First of all, I want to recognize, we have somebody in our room who just was the recipients of a number of statewide awards. Jen Bochar, who's in the corner of the room. She was the recipient of some Spectrum Awards from the Wisconsin School Public Relations Association. And she was a recipient of the Awards of Excellence for a long video. She was one of 3 selected from throughout the state for the Northside Referendum Video Tour. She was the recipient of an Award of Merit for a short video of the online 4K enrollment. And she also won a Video Short Award of Excellence for our virtual pep rally. So congratulations for your Whisper Awards. Does that cover them? Well, then there's a grant. Then you received a grant, right? You want to talk about the grant? Because you could probably describe it better than I can.
It's the Allenby Holsapple grant that the Wisconsin School PR Association gives to provide the funding to attend the conference in the next year, so that's about all I know. I just learned about it yesterday that I got it, so.
And then maybe they'll have the conference or it doesn't overlap the play and you can actually go.
Right.
Unfortunately, this year's conference overlapped the play and it just didn't work out. The only other thing I wanted to mention is obviously we just finished the play over the weekend, so congratulations to the high school students and everybody involved with the advisors and whatnot. It was, I went Saturday night, it was very enjoyable. And our varsity football team is in the state semifinals for the first time since 2000, so that's pretty noteworthy.
You had some good news on the play too, because I was there Sunday.
Oh, yes, we're advancing to state for the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association 1-act competition.
So lots to celebrate.
And also the swim team.
Yeah.
And a relay.
Yeah, we had a relay, and we also had one person qualify for cross-country state, Sierra McGuire. So.
Awesome. Very good. All right, item for boardsmanship, just a comment that, we're talking about a lot of hard stuff tonight that impacts a lot of people. I appreciated the discussion that we all had this evening. I appreciate that we can still come together and, agree to disagree and make good decisions for the betterment of our students. So, thank you. Next item we have committee reports. We'll go around. Dylan?
Nothing for me.
Dan?
Policy met earlier, but I was not able to meet it, so whoever is there can report to me.
Terry?
I have nothing.
You were in policy.
You were in
You were in policy.
I can summarize it. We discussed potential decisions that were made on 6 policies. One of them new, and the other 5 were policies that we had in place where we looked at a few changes, and we have a bunch of consent policies where we just simply had updates in language but no substantive change to the meaning of the policy. So policy committee will meet again on the 22nd, and then the full board will be receiving first and second reads on the 22nd, and the meeting in December is at the 13th? I have to look. 13th.
Okay. Nikki? Teresa?
Curriculum met tonight, and the administrators gave us an amazing overview of the goals that they have for the year and the data that they've been reviewing, and they're doing some just absolutely incredible things and a lot of hard work across all the buildings. So it was a great presentation, so thanks to Todd and all the administrators.
Bill? Nothing. Cheryl?
Nothing.
Okay. Any agenda items for future discussion from board members? Liaison reports? Nope. Okay. 5 minutes for the press. I don't see them here. So we're going to go into closed session. We have no business planned after closed session, so we're I would entertain a motion for Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Paren 1, Paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, to wit, discuss real estate related to facilities planning. Entertain that motion if somebody would like to make it.
So moved. Second.
So I've got a motion by Nikki and a second by Terry at 8:40. So roll call vote. Would you call the roll, please, Nikki?
Dan Brennan?
Yes.
Rich Jeffries?
Yes.
Terry Ellison?
Yes.
Grace Keane?
Yes.
Nikki Manley, yes. Cheryl McGuire? Yes. Dylan McGuire?
Yes.
Bill Mossberg? Yes. Ken Mosey, yes.